Hello again, Caddo Math teachers. This is Roger Vance back with another video related to our supplemental curriculum resources. These are the resources found linked in your scope and sequence document, often under either supplemental resource column or under the remediation column. There are 4 of these videos. The other 3 videos deal with Eureka Math, the Math Assessment Project, and illustrative mathematics. This video is addressing Illuminations. Illuminations is a project designed by the NCTM, or the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and it is a very well vetted resource and has some great lessons, mostly project-based lessons, very well aligned to standards. From their website directly, they claim to work to serve you by increasing access to quality standards-based resources. Just need to point out here that the standards referred to in NCTM are either going to be NCTM's own standards or Common Core state standards. So when you're doing a search, which you'll see that in just a minute, you'll probably want to use Common Core because that would be the most closely aligned by classification to our Louisiana Student Standards for Math. And the Illuminations website, you're going to find lessons and interactives searchable by NCTM's principles and standards, as I just mentioned, and also the Common Core state standards. And what I really want to point out here is that they have over 700 lesson plans, and these are really high quality lesson plans. Not going to be you're not going to be able to use these probably as is in most cases. Although one of the things I like about the NCTM Illuminations lesson plans is that they offer suggestions throughout the teacher material as to you could go this way or another way. Oftentimes the recommendations involve student research, and so depending on time you may or may not want to do that. In most cases though, they also, in addition to saying you could do some research, they give you data sets if that's the type of lesson it is. So within the alternatives, they usually involve something that requires more student time, possibly outside of class time. But then they also provide shortcuts so that these lessons can be done oftentimes in 1 or 2 class periods. So over 700 lesson plans. I think I've taught about 30 of these myself, and I've always loved every one of them. And I've never come across one that I didn't think was high quality and was not a benefit to my kids. Also, you see on here it says over 100 activities, virtual manipulatives, applets, games. Oftentimes the manipulatives and applets are embedded into the lesson plans, but you can search for those separately. The games are going to fall under what's called Calculation Nation, and it's a very cool site where kids can log in with a free account, and then they can actually play these competitive math games against other members of their class, or there are even people across the country and beyond that they can kind of challenge to a game. So it's pretty cool. Something you might want to look into at some point in the near future. So here we are at the actual website, and what you're going to see is a little bit of a slideshow going on here that has their featured lesson plans and mobile games and so forth. Of course, these are accessible. You can pull up all their resources, but they just change this out from time to time to keep some things in front of you. Also down below that big box you see Calculation Nation, which is the games that I mentioned earlier, and brain teasers and success stories. There's also a place for you to go as a teacher and submit your own lesson plans if you're interested. Now, they don't just post them, they go through a pretty heavy screening process. But there's that, and there's also a place where you can make suggestions, corrections, just make comments about existing lesson plans. If you see a way that you think something could be improved or whatever, they're pretty good about listening to feedback and making adjustments as needed. Most of the lesson plans and activities you find were actually teacher submitted, so pretty cool that that's the case, although again they screen it pretty heavily and usually return initial drafts for modification and so forth. If you look in the right hand side of the screen, you'll see this search box, and this is where you'll spend most of your initial time coming in. Notice you've got a search bar there to type in topics. You could type in standards, whatever it is that you want to type in there to look for a particular thing. But then you've got check boxes. We're going to check lessons. You could also check interactives, but we're going to look at lesson plans today. We're just going to look at one sample. Notice I can go by NCTM standards or Common Core standards. When you've got the NCTM standards selected, you notice you've got grade level ranges, and then you've got the domain showing here. So you don't actually see standards, it just breaks it down to the domain level. And then same thing with Common Core. If we click on the Common Core tab there, we don't actually get standards. In this case, we get grade levels. If I click on a grade level, then it's going to pull up every, and then click search, it's going to pull up every lesson that they have under 8th grade math. But I can click this little tab out to the left, and I get a drop-down menu of domains once again. So that narrows the search somewhat. I'm going to narrow it to functions and click search, but remember I can also always go back up to the search bar there, and I could type in a specific standard if I wanted to do that and narrow my choices a little bit. So when I got 8th grade functions here and click search, then what's going to happen is I'm going to get quite a few lesson plans here because that is a fairly broad range. And at least a couple of pages worth of lessons there. And we're going to take a look at this second one. Before we do that, I want you to notice a couple things. Notice these icons out here. Those represent the domain. So this little icon x plus y equals z, that's actually EE, expressions and equations. The chart here is, the bar graph is representative of functions, the functions domain. And those are the only ones I see on this page, but you just kind of get used to those as you go through. Maybe not the most important things, but that's the way that works. So I'm going to go to this taking its toll lesson. Before I even click on it again, though, still I'm going to read the little summary there to see if this is something I might be interested in. Students will compare the price of a toll to the distance traveled. One of the first things I think about here is that in Louisiana, we don't have a lot of toll roads. In fact, none in North Louisiana that I know of. So you may have to deal with some context problems here with some of your students. So, this could be something you say, I just don't want to even go there because my kids won't really understand what I'm talking about. Or if you go with this lesson, you just know you're probably going to have to do some upfront explanation about what a toll road is and how it works, that sort of thing. So, anyway, we're going to use this as an example, and whether or not you think the context is valid or not, that's your call. When I click on the lesson, notice I get a title, I get a grade range, which we actually click this as 8th grade. I really think this is an 8th grade lesson. And then notice it says periods 1. Now that's kind of their way of getting you to think about time frame. Basically what they're saying here is that you should be able to accomplish this lesson in one class period. Now we know that's not always how things work out, but then as you start to plan, you can determine if it's going to be able to be done or if you think you may need to give this 2 days or whatever. Again, notice the standards there, that this actually falls under EE and F. And then as I mentioned, these are typically submitted by teachers, so this gives you the author, at least the name anyway. Now, what you see here by default when you click on the lesson is the instructional plan. So you see all the teacher notes and resources for the teacher. You've got a set of tabs here where you can click objectives and standards. You've got the materials list and on and on. Notice the print all button out here. That actually is a little deceiving. It actually does not print all. What it leaves off is the student material, but it does print all of the teacher material, including objective standards, materials, questions, reflections, that whole bit. So just keep in mind that if you go to that, it's not going to pull up the student material. Okay? But it's similar to Eureka lessons. You do have some teacher material and student material. It's just that it's kind of all blended in here to one, and the student material typically is just found through these links. So I look at this, and I definitely want to read through this commentary at the beginning. It says, right here before the tabs, in this lesson, students will compare the price of a toll to the distance traveled. You want to just verify, does this really fit the topic that I'm teaching? Does it match the standard? And then below the tabs, you get some more information. Prior to the lesson, attempt to obtain a ticket for a toll road in your state. So again, we don't have any toll roads nearby us. So, you may want to Google something or come up with some alternative plan there. It says you can also find information about toll rates via the internet, obviously. And then, it gives a little disclaimer here that several states do not have toll roads, e.g. Louisiana. So what they've done is, instead of just leaving it for you to do your own research, you can do that if you want, or you can make that as part of the project for the students to do their own research. That would be cool if we had time to do it. But as an alternative that's probably going to suit most of you, there is a link here to Pennsylvania Turnpike Toll Roads overhead. And notice it's got the little overhead symbol here. And basically what this is a set of data that you can use in lieu of doing yours or your students' research. And here's what it looks like. So it shows the exit fares on the Pennsylvania Turnpike based on the exit number, and you know that exit numbers represent mileage. So from exit number 2 to exit number 39, it's showing the costs as you get off the highway. All right, going back to the lesson plan, it gives more instruction underneath that about introducing the idea. And that's, again, teacher discretion, but it's nice to have these comments here to kind of get your own wheels turning if you get stuck on how to do this. The next link we see is the actual activity sheet, the Taking Its Toll activity sheet. What you're going to find here is a 4-page document that basically is set up for students to work almost independently or in groups. I used to almost always do Illuminations lessons in small groups, pairs or threes or sometimes even fours. And they're meant to be fairly well self-guided to where you don't have to do a whole lot of hand-holding here. I mean, it's one of those types of lessons where as a teacher, it's just a matter of introducing the idea, the topic, the activity, and then letting the kids get started on their own or in small groups. And pretty much following this sheet together, and your job becomes more of a monitoring person, just to kind of walk around, observe, and offer assistance as needed. You can see here that there are up to, I think, 10 items on this sheet, and then on this activity, and then the last page is a data collection page. We often have concerns about making copies and printing things. If you plan ahead, I tell teachers this all the time, if you plan ahead and you're out of copies, you know, as long as it's 2 or 3 days out, send me an email, give me a call, and I might can help with some copies from time to time. It's not something I can make a regular practice of, but if you find a great lesson and the only thing that's holding you back is copies, I hope that you'll let me know, and I'll do everything I can to overcome that obstacle. Okay, once again, back to the actual lesson plan. We get some information on that activity. It says students should then gather that data for the toll recording sheet in either of 2 ways. And so it gives you some options there. And they actually suggest having students work together in their groups on the activity sheet. Again, teacher discretion there, but I think it works great that way. It's a great learning experience most of the time. And then we come to one more link in this lesson plan, and it is a spreadsheet. In this case, it's about toll data, and I'm not going to pull that up, but it's basically just a format for input. If you happen to be in a computer lab or kids have access to devices with a spreadsheet, and they could actually input their data into the spreadsheet and allow, you know, depending on the knowledge of your kids related to spreadsheets, they could create the scatter plot there, etc. So just another option to the lesson plan that you may or may not choose to do. Notice more instructions. After gathering data and making a graph, students should analyze the results. Gathering the data and creating graphs are skill-based tasks. While it's important for students to develop these skills, it's more important for students to conduct an analysis of their completed graphs to develop conceptual understanding. That's an important term there, of rates of change. So again, you see that rigor alignment to the standard being addressed, and so and then again more instructions. Looking down at this last paragraph, once again we see this word, we've seen something similar to it already, alternatively. So there's always options with Illuminations lessons so that you as a teacher can fit this lesson to the needs of your kids and also your own teaching style. It says, alternatively, you may wish to have students consider questions 4 through 10 as well as other questions that you devise as part of a whole class discussion. So just suggestions on how you might approach this lesson in the actual context of instruction. But that's it. You know, you would be left to come up with some closure there and how you're going to actually put this material into your lesson planning templates that you're required to use on your campus. But again, I believe this is one of the best resources we have available to us. Love this website, and really believe that it's going to be a great tool for you to use for high quality instruction. So thank you again for watching. I hope this video has encouraged you to, if you haven't already, to utilize Illuminations as a resource. Obviously, again, we've got links in our scope and sequence documents, but if you get a little time to look through, you may actually find some other things along the way. I see particularly teachers using this in the spring after testing to do some enrichment and further developing concepts that were taught throughout the school year. So remember, project-based lessons for the most part. Interactive activities, I didn't show one of those in this video, but they're available in many of the lessons and also as standalones if you just want to peruse the menu there and see what's available. But I hope this has encouraged you to use this resource or made you feel more comfortable to use this as it's linked in our scope and sequence. As always, please contact me if you have any questions or concerns, comments. Don't forget to complete the evaluation in Innovate that goes along with this video so that you can receive the credit. And thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon.